Hi everyone, welcome to the full moon in Libra event. I'll be joined by business astrologer Vicky Green very shortly. So let's take a moment to reset, get into our parasympathetic nervous system, and it's as simple as breathing through your heart. Libra full moon, time of illumination. Full moons are always about illuminating more light in our consciousness, collectively and individually. And this moon is a lot about partnership and balance and justice. So I'm going to bring Vicky in while we all just take that beautiful deep breath into our hearts. Yay! Week, Vicky. Welcome. Hi, and welcome everyone. So nice that when it works.
It's good.
This week we got all the magic people making sure that our tech was going to work, and I don't mean tech people, do I? We had all the ninjas working on the energy for this. So welcome everyone. Hey Bryony, hey, you're with us. It's so lovely to be back in the Eden room. I'm here, Cat Diva, and I'm being joined by the amazing business astrologer and tarot expert Vicky Green. So welcome, Vicky. Full moon in Libra, March 2021. I know it was exact yesterday, but we're still very much in that full moon window for the next day or two. And I'm really excited to riff with you on this today. So perhaps you could get us started, Vicky, with a bit of an overview, what to expect. I've got a few things personally I want to pick your brain about today. And guys, if you've got questions or things coming up for you, please do engage with us and let us know what's resonating in the chat. Great. So Vicky, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Kat. Hi everybody. Absolutely do get your questions in if you have them, but really just balancing back in, Kat, where you were starting. This moon energy is all about relaxing, feeling our way into ourselves, coming into harmony with ourselves. So we tend to think about, Libra's sort of partnerships, relationships, but as always, most important relationship being with ourselves, actually. So very interesting sort of counterpoint to the Aries energy that's really, really, really sort of high and full. And, we're post-spring equinox. We've got Sun and Venus together. It's like the whole world wants to get started. We can see spring everywhere. And then suddenly we're confronted by this beautiful Libra full moon that's saying, okay, but let's just think about how we enjoy that on the way through.
Totally. That's exactly what I was feeling. I was feeling like it's almost like the ego. The Aries is so like the I am, the head. Like I've got to just go and do and think.
Yeah.
And Libra is sort of going, don't forget your inner partnership with the divine. Don't forget to balance and weigh your actions against your soul's longing or intentions. It's like this idea that every action we take has an effect, a cause and an effect. And if I feel like it's this fine-tuning of steering our alignment so we really can co-create with the divine rather than just jack off on our own, like little Aries rams, off we go. And it's like this call to come back and just like check in and get balance before we then go into that massive action that we can all feel is available.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's so different about this full moon is this Sun-Venus conjunction. So that's where they come together in the sky from Earth's point of view. But this one was really special, superior conjunction. So Venus on the far side of the Sun. So that's given us an opportunity really to sort of find out how important it is to have those Venus qualities. So the loving, the relating, the sort of the feminine, the divine feminine. So we've almost had our new moon moment for Venus going behind the Sun, so blocked to the Earth for a brief period, and my goodness, do we then learn to appreciate it. So it's a real fresh start. This is almost like double sort of Ostara energy coming in now. So spring equinox plus this fresh birth of Venus, rebirth of Venus. It really is saying, don't think you guys want to be going ahead without me. It's like that Aries energy isn't going to work.
Let's go down a little bit. Yeah, don't be going off without me in your life. Be tuning in and co-creating with the divine when you act. So coming from your intuition, not just from your head.
Yeah.
What does it mean for our partnerships and our relationships, like that significant other? Because so many people are maybe seeing different ways they want to live their life. They've been through this big kind of rebirth, and now maybe one wants to go this way and one wants to do this, and there's disagreements. And some people have been saying we're going to see a huge boom in divorce and stuff. And what can you speak to about the relationships and how do we navigate this with our significant others right now?
So I think it's really important that this full moon has also coincided with Sun and Venus conjunct Chiron. Chiron being the asteroid, the wounded healer, but also very much a time and space to actually look at where each of us hurt, and with that compassion. So with Venus in the mix, it really, really does make us sort of turn within, but gently. So in terms of relationships, it's really saying, know yourself first, know yourself kindly. And that the more we can tune into that, that's really the sun, that illuminating sort of life force, is then balanced with the emotions. So the full moon in Libra. So it's being aware that the other person has feelings also, you know, obvious, but we forget. I do think it's quite an uncompromising period that we're in. I mean, you know, this full moon, I mean, perhaps illuminating is the term for the whole experience. So things that maybe have been niggling actually will be being shown in the light. It's a bit like this time of year when suddenly we see bright daylight coming in and we go, oh my God, I haven't dusted for lockdown. You know, there's an element of that going on where people will quite naturally be taking stock, seeing things that maybe have been there. But it's really important to tune into that sort of the diplomacy, the balance, the harmony, and the whole concept of full moon. My goodness, that's a win-win, right? So this whole idea of it's not a win-lose. It's not like that the sun wins out and the moon suffers. Hello.
Sorry, I've got a small person diving in here. Go on out there, and Mummy's on the call.
Sorry, hello, small person. So
the thing that I was thinking when you were saying that was, can you shut my door, please?
My cricket ball.
Can you shut my door? No, I don't. Sorry. Right. The thing I was just thinking about when you were saying that was maybe with the Aries sun is actually letting people find their boundaries a bit more in relationships. Like you say, it's a bit uncompromising. It's like actually awakening to, okay, you're here, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And the answer to solving this problem is not me just compromising or you compromising. It's us both being illuminated to see what is so.
Exactly. And I think that's depending on what our natural tendency is, it's quite difficult to find us doing the other. So those of us that are used to rolling over will find that we're having to reassert boundaries. Those of us who are better at setting boundaries are finding, oh my goodness, I have to talk about this. And we've got Mars in Gemini as well, which is going to help with the talking, but it's going to mean that there's no avoiding. Like once people do start talking now, stuff is going to get said. And all of that is healing. But you're quite right. Being able to sort of own our own stuff is probably the message of 2021. Last year, I think we were probably all going into the dark and a lot of sort of, you know, very, very difficult transformation through the winter. Now we're coming to the point we're starting to share what we've been thinking. And it's like, oh my goodness, what has been growing through this period? And it's like, there we go. It's spring. And we are going to have to call out what we've seen and be far more honest. Do you think Mars and Gemini, very honest? You know, right. So it's time to speak.
Is this the Gemini Sag North and South Node thing as well kicking in? Because we were in the Cancer Capricorn North South Node where it was all that deep inner work and all of that stuff. And now I feel like if there is going to be a big divorce boom and stuff, partly that's the Gemini Sag, because the Sag has got that legal energy, which the Libra's also got. I've had legal things bouncing back up from the past, things with my ex-husband, just things to reestablish, holding boundaries. Those conversations have been up this week. And then I was thinking about this whole apparent trend that's going to happen with the surge in divorces. And I was thinking about, well, maybe the Gemini Sag has got something to do with that, because the Gemini is that communication that you're talking about. And then the Sag has got that more like legal. What would you say? I mean, is this something that's coming to a head right now? Is there some good news with all of this? Is there some fresh starts in love as well happening?
So my very personal view is that, yes, we are absolutely in a point of transformation of relationships. Make of that what you will. I mean, for some people, it's going to be the moment at which they decide to part ways. But actually, of course, with all relationships, they evolve. It just might be that they evolve in different directions that maybe isn't in the previous format it was in. Obviously, for example, if we're parents, that relationship is ongoing, albeit in a different sense. So I think that although, yes, there's that sort of classic sort of Gemini Sag vibe going on, which I can come back to, but we need to remember we're in the new era. right? So Jupiter itself is still in Aquarius. So if we are going to have legal moments, they're going to be done in a much more Aquarian, a much more sort of balanced, forward thinking, you know, how do we get things right now? How do we take care of everybody? And almost a how do we role model? Because for lots of us who've come through, particularly people with Pluto in Libra generation, you know, we watched our parents get divorced very often. So now we have an opportunity that if we are going to go through such experiences, that we can really do so in well-informed, well-balanced, win-win philosophy, and just take things up a level.
So big. Okay, so the Pluto in Libra generation, I think, is fascinating. Pluto in Libra is what age? About 35 to 45 right now?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Roughly
actually
there?
slightly older, but not yet
Slightly
50.
older. 35 to 50-ish.
Yeah.
Because the generation younger than us, I've got friends in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're going through Pluto in Scorpio. It's a whole other story, right?
Yeah.
Their generation has to deal with.
Yeah.
But our generation, as you say, very much has to deal a lot of issues with relationships and fairness and co-parenting and things like that. And it's like kind of to do with that Pluto in Libra.
Absolutely. So full moon in Libra is going to be really a big experience for people in that generation. So there's no such thing as a casual full moon in Libra if you have Pluto in Libra, because you're going to be combining that the full force of the full moon, the real experience of where are my emotions sitting in this, who am I even, because that primal sense of family is very much signified in that, and that's going to be in some way in relationship with Pluto, which is about your deep inheritance and also about your legacy and all those survival issues and the needs to really persist, all sort of constellated in that experience. So be very interesting to see how that's coming back through. With Pluto in Capricorn, I do also think that gives us a little bit of a flavour that anything we thought was fairly well solid or built, or that Capricorn type stuff, that Pluto's still doing his work. It's like, you know, what is good. So look on the upside.
Disrupting a lot of the establishments and the structures that we've come to trust, all getting disrupted, and us realizing maybe the emperor's got no clothes actually. so what about then, if we've got this Aries sun, we've got this Libra full moon, what advice can we give if women are having these illuminations right now and they're realizing this is out of balance, or here's my needs and what I want, Aries, I am,
yeah,
and here's what my family needs from me, and these two things don't seem to be like convenient, they're not really, they seem like oil and water. What's this about? Because I think there's a lot of that in the space right now, where people are feeling they want the partnership, they want the joy in there and the love in their relationships, but they're at odds and maybe not quite sure how to reconcile what their needs are with what the needs of the unit are.
Yeah, totally get you. So I think the most important thing, if people are finding themselves in that situation, is to absolutely bless it. It's like, if you're that well tuned in, it's like, my goodness, the energy is going to be there to support you. And I think that the very, very, very first thing to say is that the divine feminine energy is the point to tune into first, in terms of creating inner and outer, starting with the inner. Who am I? Am I in my truth? Because the truth will set you free. Like, actually knowing how we really feel about something gives us a foundation to move forward. I think the mistake that we sometimes make is something doesn't feel right and we think, oh, we'll just try and fix something, or we'll do something, we'll try and shift something, and it won't work anymore in the energy as it is now, unless we really tune in, and it really comes from the heart. Been reflecting on this Sun Venus, you know, that's a double heart energy. We know about Venus and love, but also the Sun rules the heart, you know, that's the very Leo type aspect, so lots of fire in there too. So actually feeling what we're passionate about, which might not actually be a person, perhaps shouldn't be, it's actually what drives us, what our spirit is. And then that Aryan spirit of wanting to be ourselves, of wanting to pioneer, of wanting to take the initiative. So I think once we're clicked into, this is what feels good for me, we're then in a much better situation to inform those conversations about, you know, with others, and maybe not only with our direct partner,
sorry, it's beeping outside and my door was open still.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be aware of that community element as well. So once we can start talking to a variety of people, we can get a variety of solutions. I guess I would just say, you know, don't jump to the action at this point. There's definitely a reflective piece that almost the more work we do inside, the more naturally the right things will be manifesting in our environment. And that's a much more peaceful way of doing it.
That is it. That's so wise and profound. And I think giving this space to allow yourself to know what you've got going on inside, maybe writing it down without rushing into action immediately, being able to sit and reflect and refine internally, and then allowing even those action steps to start revealing themselves to you. Because when we go into the head, the mind doesn't really have the access to those answers. Well, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? How's this ever going to work? We can start spinning our wheels really quickly, can't we, if we start looking at our truth and not knowing how it's going to figure out into our lives when everything seems impossible, maybe.
Well, it's a real inner journey right now. I mean, not just because we're still sort of semi-lockdown, but also, you know, with Chiron in the mix of this full moon, it's saying, okay, so where were we wounded before? So, you know, this isn't just Pluto, right? This is everybody. So we've all had this coming together, you know, Sun, Venus, Chiron, really asking us to look at that childhood wounding in particular. And this is where we want to make sure that we're fully informed as best we ever can. I mean, none of us are perfect, but realizing, oh my God, that stuff always presses my buttons. Just, you know, it just gives us a little bit more opportunity to think twice before we then start launching into having our negotiating and really starting to move things forward. I think it also does really help us tune in for those of us that are parents in terms of how we feel about how we want to look after the rest of our brood. You know, I think that sometimes we might put up with things for ourselves that we wouldn't put up for our kids. And there's also experiences in terms of, you know, how do I make sure that my kids have the best experience, knowing I can't control everything, but just setting that intention of let's make sure that actually, you know, we're all kind of protected in this. I think there's still something quite tender about this time of year. So although the Aries energy is out and up and at it, this is the softest Arian energy we'll have seen in a while. Sun, Venus, Chiron, and we also tomorrow have Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So still this very gentle exploration of the thoughts, that mercurial action, but in Pisces, in that point where we're really thinking through what really truly matters. You know, what am I doing? The self-care, some of the things we were talking about last month around Pisces, of getting that inspiration, of feeling wrapped up. Well, Mercury's still in that energy, you know, so our thoughts are still taking a while. Yeah.
Wow. So all the videos from the Pisces season are up now on the YouTube channel, and obviously up in the Eden Room if anyone wants to go back and catch up whilst we've still got that Pisces energy around. That is fascinating because, you know, sometimes I think it's just me being lazy and I'm like, it's Aries season, I should be cracking on, but I'm still feeling quite watery, and I'm still feeling that softness, as you say, that this moon has been a very soft one. You know, and I thought it was just my personal sort of cycle where I was at. So it's fascinating to hear you say that.
It's important.
I just want to pick up on that thing as well about the parenting. It's almost like that's the new paradigm of parenting. It's okay, if I'm putting up with something because I'm thinking I'm doing it for my children, that's almost like the old paradigm, and the new paradigm says your children are learning from what you do.
Exactly.
Your children are learning that you're their role model, you're their example, and they're just getting the imprint of your energy rather than what you tell them is right. So can you like riff on that a bit more with me, Vicky? Give me some examples. I'm almost thinking it's like you're eating the box of chocolates, telling the kids not to eat chocolates, but that's like a really obvious one. I think it's more subtle. It's like you're putting up with something or tolerating something or compromising because you think it's for the children, you're doing it. But if you're not being true to yourself, they're just learning that as their MO for when they grow up.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So back to relationships, you know, we all know when something's not quite right in a relationship. Doesn't mean to say it's the end, but if it's in that atmosphere, then the children are living, breathing it, you know, whether we're conscious of it or not. So at that point, I think it really does have to be, you know, what's the best thing for us to do? Now, for example, if we're thinking about work, you know, lots of women will be thinking about, do they actually want to be doing more work now? There's opportunities, the kids are back at school and they're not on holiday, you know, and is it the best thing for the family might be our first thought. But actually the truth is, you know, what's best for us? Because otherwise, you know, if we're squashing our hopes, dreams, aspirations, that is absolutely not the right role modeling to be doing for the kids. And I do think that, you know, with this new Aquarian energy, it's like, forget the idea that we'll all be able to pretend. The kids will probably be ahead of us, right? Because that's the other thing about the generations coming up, is they see through us like that. So sometimes we have to realize we're late to our own party in terms of what our teen family are actually able to perceive about the choices that we're making.
They see, don't they? They don't miss a trick. They see, like I did when I was a kid. I remember knowing what was going on, even if the adults were pretending something else. I knew. This is very interesting, I think, for our women and guys who are thinking about their direction, and maybe, as you say, career-wise or in their relationships, like what's next and what's right for me, and how do I go now and live my passions and leave this job that I hate, or leave this toxic environment and start something new, or step up or scale. When at what point then does that energy kick in? You know, when do we get out of this sort of more dreamy, watery space where it is a bit like, okay, all systems go?
Sure. Well, I would be saying that it's really not going to be until we get into Taurus season that things are really going to escalate. I think there's quite a lot of it.
21st of April.
Very much so, because we're going to have again the same sort of move round. We're going to have, so Mercury moves into Aries pretty soon. Let me just double check. Yeah, in fact,
we're going live for anyone that is interested on Thursday to talk more about the April energies and also the Fool energies on April Fool's Day. So please join us at 11 a.m. That one is on Thursday morning, if anybody is curious about diving a bit more into this idea of using your intuition with action and the energies of April upcoming. So just for a little heads up, anyone who would like to join me and Vicky, 11 a.m. here on the Facebook page on Thursday. Sorry, Vicky, continue.
No, fabulous, fabulous. So Mercury goes into Aries on the 3rd. So we're really, so by the time when we're talking on April Fool's Day, we will be much more getting into that energy. But then actually it's as all of them start coming round into Taurus that we see some real movement. We're also moving towards eclipse cycle coinciding. So I'm absolutely certain that as we get into that, how to put this, with Uranus sitting in Taurus, so at the moment, and perhaps we should come back to it, but we know we've got this Uranus-Saturn square all year. And Uranus, the planet, you know, the Aquarian planet, but very much about revolution and change and doing things in the new way. So as everything moves into Taurus, by everything, I mean Sun, Venus, Mercury will all make their way round. That is going to be supercharged for change. So all the change we've been thinking about for a while, and Uranus has been dancing about a bit in Taurus, but now we're almost getting to the point where you know, we sort of blow the doors off type vibe. So it's exciting. I mean, I think it's important we remember that these things evolve. You know,
I'm just cringing because I've got my Sun and Mercury in Taurus and Uranus is in Taurus, and I'm just a bit like, more change,
but exciting change. I mean, I think this is where, you know, there's so much we've been holding on to, so many desires that we've been building up, not just over the last year. And that's really what I'd say to people who are thinking about making a change, that although it might feel like, oh my goodness, you know, can I do this, should I do that, you know, when we look back, we'll realize we've been carrying some of these hopes, dreams, desires for decades. You know, very often it's only now that things are able to come to fruition because the times just weren't right before. So partly this is about the, oh gosh, could I? And realizing that actually now, quite possibly, you know, we are in a new world. There are opportunities there weren't before. Things that didn't quite hit the spot before may well do so in future. And I think it's that period where we're actually going to be able to see some fresh things come alive.
Wow, this is so massive. Okay, so then with all that being said, We know we're coming into this supercharged time, this time of massive action, of massive change, of things kind of getting grounded and really locking in a way that they haven't quite been able to maybe for some time.
Yeah.
And dreams being realized that perhaps have been buried for decades, or certainly years, depending. And so then, knowing that we've got about a week until those energies kick in,
yeah,
what should we be focusing on this week with the last few days of March, with this full moon? How can we best prepare? What's the wise sort of advice you've got to give us for this next week? How should we be focused these few days coming?
Sure. So what I would say is use a few different things. Use that Mercury in Pisces to journal, to write poetry, to tune into that imagination, get the last juice out of that energy, because that will really sort of help tune into your very highest aspirations, where it's not about, even although these are important, it's not about the job or the relationship or any other aspect. It's about who am I on the very highest level. And so channeling, tuning, writing, you know, maybe painting, all that creative opportunity is there for us at the moment. So in terms of absolutely what to do this week, I would say that's the number one thing. I would say that the number two thing is to bear in mind the fact that there is support. So this, so the full moon was on the 8 to 9 degrees of Aries and Libra, and we have Saturn and Aquarius and Uranus both on 8 degrees. Now, Saturn is actually supporting those in a sextile relationship, which is all about bringing out your gifts. So, you know, Saturn makes things real in the world. So to the extent that we have got plans and ideas, or we're thinking through what we might like to do, now is the time to just re-examine, you know, get into your crafts, make sure that you're working with your hands, make sure that you're doing something to build for the future in a way that doesn't lock you into a particular path, because I think things are still open. But rather than just thinking about the, oh, what if I could change career, whatever, then actually just dive into, okay, well, maybe today I will read that book, or I will, you know, get in touch with someone, you know, and book in for some coaching. Maybe I will, you know, take action towards meeting more people in that environment, or actually register the company, you know. So you don't have to wait to take the action, but it's a time to almost tune into the things that feel like the most fun. Because that's one of the really big features that we're moving into, is that actually things don't have to be hard work anymore. So although we have some of that Saturn energy, there's a really beautiful flow with it this month, because we're saying, yes, I can do it, and it can be easy.
This brings me on to my next question. So just really quickly, it sounds like a fantastic time for a reading, actually. And if anybody does want to book a reading with you, Vicky, they can come over to www.vickygreen.com and book a reading for now. Yeah. It does sound like a good time to do that and get a big picture of the next year or so in business. And Vicky's excellent. She can look at your business chart and tell you best times to scale, best times to launch things, a lot of auspicious dates for your business, and give you a really good understanding of the nature of it. So definitely check out Vicky's readings. It feels like a really nice time to have one, actually. But the final question I want to ask you about, we can't not talk about love and romance with this full moon. What about our single ladies and gents who might be considering, you know, maybe they've been through the divorce and they perhaps considering getting back into dating, or they're looking for love. With this full moon in Libra, what's the sort of recommendation in terms of inviting more love and romance into your life, and fun as well?
And fun. I would say absolutely. I think this is where knowing your patterns of how you work with boundaries is important. You know, I think that the whole sort of the Saturn Uranus element means that we do need to make sure that we're looking after ourselves, that we're building something that works for us. So in terms of it's important that we rethink what relationship we actually want, and don't just go for what we think our parents would like. And don't just go for either the same as I've done before or totally different to what I've done before. So I'd say it's a time for sort of, you know, pragmatic open-mindedness. Like, if you've always fancied dating somebody a bit different, now is the perfect time. We have all this wonderful Aquarian energy going on. I would say absolutely think about diplomatic first steps. So we've had this sort of full moon in Libra. That means sort of taking things gently, but it means that things that are happening right now could be very real. So if you're feeling inspired, now is definitely the time. I know we've talked about it before, but we've got this Mars-Venus conjunction coming up later this year. So the chances of finding really good quality relationships is high. And I guess that would be my big message. It's like, keep your standards, you know, make sure that you're looking after yourself, because you might just find that what you're doing this year really sticks.
Oh, so it's a really good year. That's so lovely.
Amazing.
I love that.
Mars, Venus in
Gail
Leo.
Says, really, yes, the king, right? The lion.
Yeah.
Mars and Venus together, the divine union. Wow. So be sovereign and respect yourself, respect your boundaries, and hold the highest standard for your counterpart. Love that,
standard.
Vicky. That's so good. Okay, so we've got Gail saying, fantastic. I love this as I'm getting my gifts out at the moment. We've had Bryony joining us saying she's a Scorpio. Juliet, who I know, she's saying that's me for the Pluto in Libra. I'm sure a lot of us anywhere between what, 35ish and 50 right now have that Pluto Libra thing going. So this full moon will be really big in our relationships and sense of partnership. Quickly before we go, last thing, and I don't want to crush the joy and the fun of the flow, but legal matters and legal issues can come up, and I think we're seeing a lot of that even with our government at the moment being tried at the High Court, basically, and found lacking. What's going on there? Quickly want to speak to that maybe just before we go. So if anyone's got legal stuff coming up or wants to talk a little bit about standing their ground in partnership.
Yeah, it's really important. And I think you did hit on it well earlier when you were saying about the Gemini Sagittarius North South node. There is a sense as well. So the South node is in Sagittarius, and that's usually where there's issues from the past coming through, you know, so sometimes karmic issues. So South node sweeping through Sagittarius is going to bring out long-standing issues. So whether or not that's a recurring case or whether or not it's something that's never been quite right, these issues will be coming up for cleaning. And I think that's one of the really important things to remember. I mean, obviously the law, generally speaking, is ruled by Jupiter, which is about, you know, sort of being magnanimous, you know, and actually having that sort of perspective in terms of being merciful and the appropriate valuing of justice. I mean, full moon Libra, the scales of justice. Perhaps we shouldn't be at all surprised that right now we're having a hot spot around those issues. And at that full moon, Mars conjunct the North Node. So that's really where, so that strong Martian energy means that there may be arguments, but what's really positive about it is the Mars with the North Node. So that's where the future is going. That's really the spiritual path to truth through that North Node. And so therefore, although we might be in dialogue, Gemini, you know, and it might be contentious with the Mars energy, actually there's also an opportunity to really set the record straight. And so there's a really positive, you know, Mars in its most pure sense is quite straightforward. So to the extent that we can have honest, meaningful conversations, we can get things right for the future. And I like to think that that nodal axis is actually just encouraging all of us each time to clean up what's been brought into the world, sometimes not even through ourselves, but we've inherited it. And actually it gives us an opportunity to pass on something better. So we have to trust that in dealing with our legal issues, that actually each time it is an opportunity to set things that little bit further forward and make those improvements that we need. I mean, there is nothing more wonderful than a good lawyer when you have to do business. So, you know, there is also part of this that says, make sure you get the right team, make sure you're clear in your mind what you want, and keep talking, Gemini Sag, you know, and then sooner or later you will get to where you need to get. I think it's really important that people remember that actually these things are there to serve them. So getting into that energy, getting into that Sun in Aries energy of going, okay, I can and I will, you know, and make sure you get your needs met.
So good, Vicky. So good. I've got my Mars in Libra. So this is super big for me, because that planet of action and no messing is always in that weighing this up, and well, let's look at both sides of this. So I've actually had a lot of lessons in my life where sticking up for myself has been hard, you know, and standing my own ground has not been easy. And I find it easy to stand up for other people, but less so for myself. So it's been the thing I've been continually tested on the last decade. And you know, so it's really interesting. I can feel how powerful you are as you speak to that, even by saying, giving people permission and saying, yeah, you need to have a good lawyer if you're in business. You know, and actually, I'm going to be brave here and say, and you know, learning from experience, my experience, if you're having a relationship breakdown, you also need a good lawyer sometimes, especially depending on the other person. You know, not everybody can mediate and do the talky thing. Sometimes you have to set the boundaries and detach, don't you, and have protection for your energy.
You
really not get entangled.
That's exactly it. It's keeping things, so wonderful opportunity, keep things clean and clear, you know, and but equally keep talking, you know. I think, but if that means that that's through an intermediary, that's fantastic. I mean, in fact, Mars in Libra, that does give you a protection of your relationships as well, once you can tune into that energy. You know, it's almost like you have got your warrior outpost there, you know, as and when you find them, you know. So letting people do some of that work for you is not a bad thing.
Oh, I love how you put a positive spin on all these things, Vicky. Is there any final thoughts from you? We've still got a minute here. If there's anything you feel in your heart that people need to receive right now with this full moon, it feels like a really soft, you know, but powerful moment. And I'm just curious if there's anything that you feel to complete this today you'd like us to all be aware of or think about.
Sure. I think probably the thing I've learned about this full moon, I mean, normally we're trailing, whereas actually today we're slightly later. And I think it's that sense of needing to take space for ourselves. So there's almost this feeling with this very soft energy still, that without fools rush in, and we'll talk about that on Thursday, but just these last few days before we get there, so this tail end of March, self-care, it's so easy to say we have to do, you know. And I cannot help feeling that the Libra energy that we've been pulling on is going to recur through this year. I'll do a bit of work for that when we come back on Thursday, but there seems to me that the relationship piece we're talking to, possibly also as Chiron's traveling through Aries, picking up Pluto in Libra, there's a few different themes that seem to be emerging from here. So people need to dig in, they need to take care of themselves. And I think that we should be coming back perhaps with a few more sort of explorations on those, in terms of thematically what might help people go through the next few months, actually, because it feels like these energies are just, each time we talk, they just go another level higher and higher. So I'd just really like to encourage people to stay with their process. You know, it's every time it's just an up leveling. And remember, this week we are leading up to Easter, Christian calendar. So actually that full moon would have been on Palm Sunday, and so we're in that Garden of Gethsemane type vibe, and so the test of faith will be in the atmosphere. So there will be moments perhaps when, even though there's beautiful energies, that people feel like, oh my God, am I still on track? And it's really important to remember, yes, they are. And we've got the biggest rebirth, certainly the Christian calendar, due up at the end of the week.
I'll come in a minute. Do you know, I just want to, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Vicky. I'll come in a minute. I'm not available right now. I'll come in a minute. See boundaries. Gracie, go and ask Juki. He's got the charger. Shut the door, please. I'll be there in a minute. Just one thing I wanted to say about that before we go. Yes, I'm so excited for the Fool event, by the way. And thank you for doing that for us this week. But the Easter couldn't be more witchy. I looked at when they schedule Easter, and it's it's the Sunday after the full moon after the spring equinox, and that's why the date moves all the time for Easter Sunday. And it just makes me laugh sometimes that people think what we're doing is a bit out there or a bit new or a bit weird, and it's like, wait a minute. No. We've been living by these moons. We just haven't called it that. You know, Easter Sunday itself is super witchy when they schedule it for.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So it's always going to be the Sunday after the full moon we've just had. I mean,
After the spring equinox.
So it is a moon of rebirth, but it is also the moon that actually pushes us through a little bit before we get to the light. So as I say, so it is beautiful and gentle and all those other things, but it's also going to be a point for deep reflection as well. So being kind couldn't be more important.
Well,
Kind
let's
to
end on that
ourselves.
lovely note. Yeah, kind to ourselves. We are here for you in the Eden Room. We've got you with all this practice. If you need that daily support right now, whether it's the healing of the heart, the crystal bowls, or just letting yourself relax with the sleep hypnosis, anything like that, let us know how it's going for you. Give us feedback. We're totally here. Vicky, you are incredible as always. I'm so grateful for you and for this incredible wisdom that you're bringing through for us all. Looking forward to seeing you Thursday. Everyone, I hope you can join us 11 o'clock Thursday morning. It's nice for us to do a morning session for a change. We're doing 11s instead of lunchtime. And I think that's very appropriate for what we're going to be talking about moving into Taurus later in April. Us Taurians like our 11s and lunch breaks. But this has been incredible. We've got everything we need to really make this week very powerful and special. And the counterintuitive approach of getting the most power out of Aries season by actually allowing a little longer to linger in the softness and the illumination of this full moon to access that higher truth of who we are and I wrote it down actually, who I am on the highest level. That's a lovely journaling question for us to leave you with. Who am I on the highest level? So thank you so much, Vicky, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time. Big love. Enjoy this full moon. Take care. Bye for now. Thanks, Vicky.